Being a Nintendo kid in the 80s and 90s, I absolutely loved everything put out by the Big N, but that also meant that I missed out on a lot of really cool stuff from other companies. I had a Sega Genesis for a little bit, not a very long time. I played a Master System, really kind of liked it. The one system that I never had and I could never enjoy until about a year ago is this guy here behind me. This is the TurboGrafx 16, and it is without a doubt one of the coolest systems I have ever been able to play. Beautiful graphics, great sound, amazing games, a little expensive to collect for. Hey everyone, Gary here from Rock Solid Productions. Thank you for stopping by and checking out what we have going on here today. I really do appreciate it. If you like what you see, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button and that subscribe button. That way every time we come out with new content, you're kept the most informed and up to date. And what I want to know from you here today, did you ever own a TurboGrafx 16? Do you currently own a TurboGrafx 16? And I also include some of the variants such as the PC Engine or the Core FX, and I'll even throw in the minis. Did you end up picking up one of those as well? I've got some cool content here on the channel, including how I region free modded this system playing behind me so I can play PC Engine games. I'll have that link for you right up there if you want to check it out after this video. Now, when I got my system in January of 2020, boy, that seems like a pandemic ago, quite honestly. It came with just the system itself. I got it from Pat from Show Me Retro. Make sure you check out his channel too. And he gave me a great deal, but it was just the system. Okay, I could pick up the accessories. I got the power supply from Ryan at CastleManiaGames.com. I'm running this right now through my spark plug from Insurrection Industries. This thing looks great. Going through my OSSC and then finally going through my M Classic. The one thing that I did need, however, was a controller. Now, I've shown in the past how I picked up one of the joystick controllers and it's okay, but for stuff like this, I want a gamepad. And the folks over at Hyperkin have this guy here. This is the Specialist, and this is not a new controller. They've had this out for about a year, year and a half, almost 2 years at this point. So what we're gonna do with it is I finally broke down and I picked one up. We're gonna throw it on the bench. We're going to see how it comes out of the box. We're going to test the fit and finish. We're going to compare it to the controller that came with the TurboGrafx 16 Mini. And we're going to do some gameplay. Come on, let's go get to the photo booth. So before we get started, something completely nerdy and geeky about this. This is actually the first review item to be done in our new photo and video booth, so I'm actually really excited to see how this footage turned out. Now, like I mentioned, this is not the newest of products. They've had this out for a while, hence you can see it actually still has that dog ear aesthetic that Hyperkin has been known for. Their later stuff, their more recent stuff does not have this, so I think they are going away from this. Now, I did pick this up at our local disc replay for $29.99, and here you can see on the face of it, it's basically got the Hyperkin logo there. Has a lot of the same design aesthetics and everything as the original TurboGrafx 16 controller, your turbo buttons, your 1 and your 2 button. Nothing on the bottom really, nothing on the side other than the name. Now in here you get quality. Well, we'll see about that. Hopefully it is a quality product. 10-foot long cable, I appreciate that. Comfort, well, we'll see how comfortable it is. Again, like I say, totally geeky, but I'm hoping that the new photo booth works as well as I think it's going to here. And I hope you all like it moving into the future as well. So setting the box aside, one of the nice things is that this does come with the adapter for the PC Engine as well. So, and that uses a slightly smaller DIN cable. You can see how large the one for the TurboGrafx 16 is right there. So looking at the Specialist itself, very similar to, again, many of the other controllers from Hyperkin, kind of has that scalloped edge on the side, has kind of a textured finish to it too. It feels very similar to at least the controller that's included with the Mini, but it is thicker. And again, I'll get the Mini's one out here in a second. Nice, again, 10-foot long cable, so that will be a very welcome addition. 1 and 2 buttons feel fine. D-pad feels a little bit mushy, like it pushes in more than it rocks. Like I can push it in straight flat, and I don't know that I like that a whole lot. Membranes for the select and start feel good. Switches for turbo feel just fine. And again, like I say, I wanted to compare it to the actual TurboPad. And again, this is the one for the Mini, but everything that I've seen it's the same basic controller. Now, this one I can push in a little bit, but the rocker in the middle definitely better than what Hyperkin's is here. One other thing I wanted to look at is the thickness. So you can see how the Hyperkin one is slightly taller here, by about the height of the D-pad, I would say. So be aware that this is a thicker controller. This is a thicker controller than what at least the original or the Minis was. Yeah, I'm really unsure about this D-pad, and that does have me a little bit concerned. But one way to address that concern is to go ahead and play some games with it. So we have some TurboGrafx games and some PC Engine games we're going to go ahead and test out right now. So let me kind of set the stage for you here. Sega put one of their top properties, Fantasy Zone, on a competitor's console. It was so popular in Japan, the PC Engine was, that Sega knew, hey, we need to put this game on the competition because it's just that popular. Now, before we dive into gameplay, just so you know how I have the system hooked up and everything right now, I am using an Insurrection Industries SCART cable going into my OSSC set to 2x line multiplication. I am using my M Classic with just bypass mode turned on, and then I am using an Insurrection Industries spark plug to get me that RGB output straight out of the back out of my system. So let's start with Fantasy Zone. We're going to leave the turbo buttons turned off for now, but this is definitely one of those games I can see turbo being a huge benefit. Very colorful game, just overall kind of whimsical and silly. But a lot happens in a hurry. Yeah, we're going to turn the turbo on because it gives us an unfair advantage, just like that. Now, one thing I will say, the D-pad on this does feel mushy. I'm not thrilled with it. It's definitely playable, but I'm not. I wish that it was closer to how like the Scout and Cadet's D-pad feel, because those are exceptional. Now, unlike most shoot 'em ups, this one actually allows you to kind of scroll and progress at your own pace. But here you can see exactly how much of an advantage that turbo button is. Yeah, overall, the D-pad is feeling a little bit like I'm pushing it in further than I feel like I need to or should have to, quite honestly. Yeah, overall, I mean, not terrible. Definitely notice it's not lag. It's just a matter of I feel like I'm pushing the D-pad in further than really I would want to. I got stuck there. All right, game over. Now next what we're going to do is we are going to move on to an import game, and we're going to move over to Pac-Land. Now this is actually a Japanese PC Engine game. I modded my system so I can go ahead and play either PC Engine or TurboGrafx 16 games. The cartridge, the Hue card is exactly the same between the two of them. It's just region locked at a system level. I've just got, like I say, a mod I installed from GameTech US. If you want to learn how to go ahead and do that for your system, I'll have that link for you right up there. Now, for me, one of the things that I love about this game is I love the cartoon as a kid. Now, Pac-Land is a little bit different, where the 1 and 2 buttons are actually make you run left and right, and the D-pad is jump. So definitely a different sort of mechanic. I thought I jumped a little bit early there. But I love the fact that they used the actual cartoon music and everything. I mean, you've got so many great things about this game that it just reminds me so much of my childhood. And that's what retro games should do. It should give you that nostalgic feeling, and this game 100% does. Now, I mean, obviously from a graphical standpoint, nowhere near as good as what the cartoon was. And I can't remember if it was Hanna-Barbera or who it was that did the animation on the original Pac-Land cartoon. But it was just silly, stupid fun. I think Frank Welker did a bunch of voices, because Frank Welker did voices for everything, and he still does in a lot of ways. Now, one thing I will say about this D-pad wise, I should have just gone under instead of trying to go over. Unlike what I was just experiencing in Fantasy Zone, because I can either press up, down, left, or right to make him jump, I'm not having a lot of the same issues, or the D-pad just feels better for something like this than what it did. Oh, I would have gotten the power pellet at the same time. Ooh, let's see how many I can get here. There's 3 of them. Pretty good on this. Now, again, this is the import version. It does come with the adapter if you want to use something like this on a PC engine. You can do that without any real problem whatsoever. Oop. Although that was a bit of a problem. Watch out below! All right, now we're going to move on to one of my favorite games, not only on the TurboGrafx, but of all time. And I'm talking, of course, about Bonk's Adventure. Let's get started. So Bonk, if you're not familiar, was essentially going to be the TurboGrafx 16 version of Mario or Sonic. It was their trademark character after Keith Courage came out, which we'll get to Keith in a little bit here. But one of the interesting things is that so few people in the West had TurboGrafx 16s that they ended up actually putting Bonk on the NES. They actually did it on the Famicom as well. I have the Famicom version of this game, and it plays exactly the same. Doesn't look as good, doesn't sound as good, but damn, is it still fun. And we're gonna dive into Bonk, and this is seriously one of the best platformers of this generation. I would say 8-bit through up into, I would say up into the N64, quite honestly. Now, granted, once you got into the N64, it would be, you know, more of the 3D games. Come on, how many of these can I get? Ah! So that was with the turbo completely on. Let's see what happens. That's what jumps. So I'm going to turn turbo off. Now, one thing I will say about Bonk that's kind of a bummer, the music's really repetitive. It's good, but it's just like, I don't want to hear the same track for, you know, level after level after level. Now, I will say too, this game, you know, again, D-pad wise, working just fine. So I'm wondering, again, if it isn't more on those games like Fantasy Zone where you're making quick lefts and rights. Yeah, I'm just getting more points here. The animation of Bonk 2 kind of reminds me of, like, I've said this before, reminds me of like either Calvin and Hobbes or even something from Charles Schulz. Through the first level, pretty, you know, no harm, no foul essentially there. I always thought that was kind of neat the way that he chews his way up the mountainsides and whatnot. So I will say between this and Fantasy Zone and Pac-Land, if you're looking to get into TurboGrafx collecting, 3 terrific ways to get your collection started. I mean, it just, these are great fun games. They look great, they play great. The play control and everything's super, super tight, like a Toyger. Now, one thing on here too is just the fact that the those areas drop out and you don't need to touch the lava. I will say I'm digging the button presses better than the D-pad, and not that the D-pad is terrible, but I can definitely notice that it's not 100% what I would like. So we're through the first 2 levels of Bonk. We're going to finish it up with the game that the system came with, Keith Courage. So as I mentioned, Keith Courage was actually the pack-in game for the TurboGrafx 16, and it's interesting because, well, he's a little slow. Where, you know, in a generation where you had Sonic and you had Mario that were running across the screen, this is as fast as Keith goes. Now, I will say, if you look at the colors and the detail and everything, beautiful game. I mean, this game looks terrific. Let's see. Now, when you get to this part of the game, it reminds me of like a Voltron or even maybe a Power Rangers, but mostly as far as in video games, it reminds me of Metal Storm. Oh, that's how the bolt bombs work, is basically it's like Zelda's sword, or Link's sword. The sword in Legend of Zelda, how about that? Now, I've seen, you know, having played this a couple times now, you know, obviously that character's head is a gun, but he actually has a face too that I just noticed for the first time. It's like he's got a set of Oakley blades on. Yeah, this as well, I will say definitely, you know, the D-pad's working well. It's a more, I don't know that it's as quick-paced as what Fantasy Zone is, but it's a more deliberate button press, or D-pad press, I guess. And I think this is a boss level now. All right, there's one of them. Taking more damage than I want. All right, awesome. Got through the first boss level on Keith Courage. So initial thoughts, we're going to pause this here. There we go. Pretty comfortable in the hand. I didn't mention earlier that it does have Hyperkin's kind of trademark humps in the back for comfort in addition to the dog ears. While it is thicker than the stock controller, it's not obnoxiously so. I do love the fact that it's got that 10-foot long cable on there. I mean, I can sit from here all the way back against my wall that I have and be able to reach my system no problem whatsoever. I think that there's a lot decent about this, but there's still some areas of improvement. And I'll give you those areas of improvement coming up as we finish things up and wrap things up. So what do I think about the Specialist from Hyperkin? So let's talk first and foremost about some of the things I really do like about this controller. First of all, the 10-foot long cable is wonderful. It is so nice to be able to sit back and play in front of my TV and not have to be, this close to the television screen. The fact that it does come with that adapter for the PC Engine is nice, but it doesn't do a whole lot for me, quite honestly, because I don't have a PC Engine. If you did, you can then use this on a PC Engine as well. The turbo buttons, the turbo slide switches that is, work just fine, and the 1 and the 2 buttons work perfectly as well. The select and run work very well too. The D-pad is hit and miss, and I think a lot of that is depending on the game. For games such as Fantasy Zone, where you need to do quick back and forths, I did find myself having a few issues there, but for things like Keith Courage, for Pac-Land, and for Bonk, it worked flawlessly. Overall, a pretty solid controller for the TurboGrafx 16. My biggest concern, quite honestly again, is that D-pad. It's good, but not great, and I did have a few issues that I ran into it. The other thing on this controller, I paid $29.99 for it. I'd like to see it $5 or $10 less expensive. $19.99 or $24.99 would be a lot better price point for the consumer than $29.99, at least in my opinion. And again, if you compare the cost of this to like their Cadet and their Scout controllers, it's more expensive than either of those. Now granted, you do have the turbo buttons on here. Does it double to triple the price? I don't think so. I think this really should be about a $20 controller at most myself. But these are just my opinions. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Have you tried one of these? Do you like it? Have you not tried one of these? Have you thought about picking one up? I will say too, the fact that it is a little bit thicker than the TurboPad itself, didn't really notice during gameplay, and the kind of texturing on here was pretty similar to what the stock controller, or at least the one with the Mini, was as well. No fatigue issues, very comfortable overall. I mean, it felt good in the hand. I mean, it worked exactly as I wanted to as far as comfort level and everything. Just that D-pad needs to be addressed. Now, if you do have any other comments or questions, as always, you can feel free to email me at rocksolidmail@gmail.com. You can send me a message on Twitter at RockSolidStudios. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/RockSolidProductions, and then Instagram at instagram.com/RockSolidProductionsGK. Now, if you want to pick one of these up, I will have a link down below in a pinned comment to where you can get these through, I was going to say order, and it came out GWIT. So order or get, there you go. You can get these through CastlemaniaGames.com. The cool thing over there too is he has what's called Castle Cash. It's his rewards program where the more you spend, the more you earn towards future purchases, and Castle Cash is just like cash. You can also use promo code ROCKSOLID10 to save you 10% off of most items on the website. Try it out at checkout. If it works, great. If not, it will let you know. Now, if you are looking for some other videos that we've done on the TurboGrafx 16, some of the mods, some of the games, some of the pickups, those are coming up for you right now. Thank you for watching this video. If you would like to support the future of Rock Solid Productions, you can do so by visiting our Patreon page at patreon.com/rocksolid. For as little as $1 a month, $12 a year, you'll get early access to all of our video content, exclusive content, and a whole lot more. You can also become a channel member here on YouTube for as little as $1.99 a month, and with that, you get a badge next to your name when you comment or post on the channel, and you are acknowledged whether you are a channel member or a Patreon supporter at the end of each and every one of our videos. You can also support the channel by visiting our Teespring store on screen now, where we have t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, masks, cell phone cases, and much more. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon.